What is up, humans of the cardboard? Oh my god, I almost went back to the old intro. Thank you so much for following me here, guys. Thank you. I put out a poll last night because I went 3-2 at my locals. My first locals back from COVID, actually, playing pure Zefra. I want to know if you guys were even curious about having like a locals, whatever you want to call it, recap kind of video, showing my list off, talking about matchups, how everything went. And it was like overwhelmingly like 95% of you guys voted yes. So here we go. Here's pretty much the list. It's not that different from the profile I uploaded like, a week ago on Zefras. I think the monster count is exactly the same. Still playing the Kaku. The only difference really, I think, is 2 cards. I think I took out a second. Was I playing 2 Bell, 2 Crow? I can't even remember. I was playing Called and a second Bell, and ended up taking out Called by the Grave and a second Bell for 2 copies of Desires. I just found that number of hand traps, I was just drawing like 2 to 3 hand traps like every couple duels, and you just like, unless you open that exactly with a copy of Zefras in a low scale, it does not work. So I ended up switching to Desires as just a card that can hopefully get me to more scales as an actual Zefra play instead of just simply nothing but hand traps, because this deck needs at least 2 cards to play. It needs to be the 2 right cards to play. Yeah, so long story short, the main deck is pretty much exactly the same. Path was insane. I knew it would be. Providence was insane. This card was also MVP. People not reading it fully, I would give them the card, they read it, and they still tried to just like wipe my scales, wipe my back row, and just Providence protect. Yeah, and other than that, it was pretty good. Gamma was pretty good a couple times. Definitely also bricked on it a couple times. More so the driver. But everything else I would say is pretty good. I think I probably bricked 3 times during the tournament. We'll talk about that in a minute. Let's phase up real quick. We'll take a look at the extra inside. I've never shown you a side yet for the deck, but the extra deck is, I think, exactly the same. Boral Sword did not come up. Phoenix did not come up. Also did not come up. Horus did not come up. I wanted to make a Horus play, but I didn't need to. So, like, okay, still would like to have it, though. Did not come up, did not come up. Came up 1. I made this from gamming on my own turn, and then I got Solemn Strike. So, okay. This came up actually kind of clutch. Not only did I make it multiple times, not even to go into the Hyperiton play, but I actually just ended on this and used its on-field effect to like Trident pop something twice. So this card was awesome. Did not make Sheridan. You're usually not making Sheridan unless you're making Horus. And I did make Hyperiton, I think, twice, and it ended up like winning the duel. So very, very cool. The side deck though, 3 Dimension Shifter, 3 Phantasme, the second Bell, the second Crow, and a Pank for the monsters. Yeah, I like Bell's just technically searchable. Although you're never searching at game 1, so like I don't know if it even makes sense to play it at 1. But the long story short is I wanted like Bell's like that extra hand trap that's good versus Tri Brigade. Well, we only had, I think, 1, maybe 2 Tri Brigade players at our locals. It was like 25 players, 5 rounds, guys, legit. But a small amount of Tri Brigade. 2DD Crow, this is for Striker. We did have a good amount of Striker players. I did not play any of them though, so I wanted Crow to either hit the Engage or the Ray, potentially the multi-roll if I can get it engraved. But definitely wanted like 2 and 2 just to have like something nice for both those matchups. Phantasme is also really good for those matches as well, drawing us into cards like these. Really nice. Pank did not come up, didn't end up siding it, didn't think it was that good. Like I thought about siding it versus Sally's, but didn't end up doing so at the end of the day, just because they put Balinks engraved so easily. So like best case scenario, we're just like kind of taking care of some Balinks action with this card. But it still was fine, I would say. Harpy's Feather Duster sided in, I think, twice, did not draw it, even though 3 people saw it versus me. Always good. Didn't side Raigeki, sided Mind Control for Sally's, did not see it. Called, you side this in going first because like I assume a lot of people are just playing Droll for like Drytron. If they think this deck's going to search enough, they'll side Droll for it. So this is kind of like with the Gamma, like your 4th copy of a card that just blanks Droll, ideally, when you know you're going first. And then 2 evenly. Didn't side this in. Didn't really play anything that was putting enough stuff on board. There was an Altergeist player there. There were a couple other, like, back row players, but I didn't end up seeing them, so evenly matched stayed in the side. So yeah, that's it for the list. Pretty cut and dry. I definitely want to make some changes. Might play around with the hand trap lineup. Crow was awful. I saw Crow 2 or 3 times today, and I don't think a single time, I think against the Blue Eyes player was okay, because I just hit like the stone engrave that just like summons a Blue Eyes monster from deck. And yeah, I saw versus Dark Warrior, and it was like hella mediocre. He had so many extenders, it just didn't matter. It wasn't powerful enough. So I don't know. I'm probably going to take DD Crow out of the main and just say screw it. We'll side this in for strikers when they come. But I'm not going to worry too much about that. Okay, but from here, we're going to get into the matchups. Let me pull up some pictures here. We're doing this super jankly, by the way. I apologize for this. I'm actually going on vacation, literally leaving today in like 3 hours. So I'm trying to get some videos out, get some stuff done here. So I'm doing this just kind of the jank way. Hopefully I'll be able to do this cards in hand a little more cleanly. Maybe I'll have some video footage and, you know, just look nicer, right, for you guys while we do these recaps, if I start doing them as a regular thing going forward. But round 1, we played Cyber Dragon. It's a guy that I knew from locals even before COVID as a Cyber Dragon player. It's his staple. He is opting second. But I don't think he drew either he didn't have like a couple of expensive staples that would have really made the deck scary, like, you know, Lightning Storm, you know what I mean, just the hard going second staples that would have really scared me, because I think he was playing a little more budget, and so he just didn't open anything crazy. He made Infinity both games, but I just had one of the judgments set, one of the searchable, you know, in archetype judgments, waited for him to try and suck something up, and then you hit it. I just wanted him to commit as many monsters into something as possible and then clear it, and it worked, so that was great. And we 2-0'd him. It was kind of like very simple: go first, handle him, win in 2 turns, and then same thing in game 2. So nothing too crazy there. Round 2, we played Blue Eyes. This was a funny one. I made a huge misplay game 2. Game 1 was pretty cut and simple, nothing too crazy, just Zefra ward a couple things, got to a Divine Strike, negated alternative in hand, and he just ended up with 1 or 2 Blue Eyes in hand, couldn't do anything. Game 2, though, I definitely super goofed. He had a regular Blue Eyes and the Synchro, so it's like 3,000 and 2,500 on field, and he activates an alternative White Dragon. I have a counter trap set that's live and a Gamma in hand with no monsters on field, and I let it resolve because I'm just modern day Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm just tricked into thinking like, what's the most efficient way to hand trap my opponent, keep them off of as much advantage as possible, forgetting the fact that like the basic win condition of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is get your opponent's life points to 0. So I let him summon it, and he just has 8,500 damage on the board. I'm just like, oh, so stupid. Why'd I do that? I literally could have like negated and destroyed that, and then still had Gamma in hand to negate the Synchro if you tried to summon this, do the Synchro. So it's just awful. But then game 3 was luckily like the same thing as game 1. Went first, took care of business, set up a path so he could not summon from grave, which didn't matter too much. I think I kept him off of like one side. Oh, actually, he couldn't summon from deck with the stone engraved. I do remember that coming up. But other than that, yeah. 2-0. So we're 2-0 at this point. We go into game 3. Salamandra. This one hurt, guys. This one hurt really bad. Game 1, we kind of just like owned it. We kind of just like owned game 1. We set a path at some point with a counter trap or a war. Can't even remember which one we had. And just like, they can't play. Like they can't beat it. They have to like already have access. They have to like hard draw Rage or already have Sunlight Wolf when you activate it, and like you not be able to clear it, but not the case. He just couldn't get back into the duel. We eventually just win, no problems. Game 1 easy. Game 2, so game 2 was kind of like a grind. It was really back and forth. At some point, I actually start running away with advantage, and then he makes Pyro Phoenix. He like baits out all my hand traps or whatever, and then makes Pyro Phoenix and wipes all my board. I think I had like Field Spell, Double Scales, and like 2 monsters on the field. He wipes literally 5 cards off my field. Attacked me for a good amount of damage. Then to put me down to like 1,400, something like that. Then he uses Pyro Phoenix's effect to reborn a Gravity controller that I had in grave. And I was like, okay. And he had a Foxy on field too. Or not, yeah, Foxy. So I top deck Gizmet Kaku for turn, which is actually in this situation very good because I don't think he has any hand traps, anything in disruption wise. He just has a Pyro Phoenix and a Foxy. We were both in like super condensed game state. So I special Kaku, I suck up the Pyro Phoenix. I go battle phase, beat over the Foxy, summon the Pyro Phoenix, beat in for more damage. He's like 3,000. I'm only at 400, right? He took me down to 14, revived the controller off of Pyro Phoenix to burn me for another 1,000. And I fucking pass like a fucking dope because I'm thinking to myself, okay, like he wants to go, like if he goes into a link, and he wants to try and beat over Gravity Controller, he can't because I'll just shuffle them both and he loses the link anyway, and I'm in great position. Not thinking that he could easily just draw something big enough to just walk over the Gravity Controller for 400 life points and I lose. He ends up with exactly that. He has Flame Buffalo, walks over, and I lose exactly life on exact lethal. It's horrible. I was so upset at this. I was so upset at myself for just not even checking the life points. I could have easily linked off like Pyro Phoenix and the what's it called? The Gravity Controller for like either a Lambda or a Phoenix or something like 17, 1900, somewhere in that range where he just like, even if he top decks Jack Jaguar, like we don't lose. He just beats over us for 100 damage and passes. And it is what it is. I was really upset. I was literally going to win on the next turn. We looked at our hands. He was like, wow, yeah, you were going to win on the next turn if you just made Lambda. So it is what it is. And then I end up losing game 3 as well. That's what hurts anyway. Like it should have been a 2-0, like a fairly clean 2-0, and I ended up losing 2-1 because of that horrible misplay. So I made 2 horrible misplays. They're not even Zefra related. They were just like game state related, like remembering life points, things like that, that I got to get back into the groove of getting used to, keeping tabs of those things. But yeah, lost 2-1. First loss of the day. So we're 2-1 at this point. We move on to round 4. Sally's again. And this is actually the guy I went to locals with. I always go to locals with this guy. He's a great friend of mine, Chris. You've seen him on the channel a couple times. He's making salads right now. We clapped him up. I mean, to be honest, Chris should have and probably could have taken both games, but he had to get to his good draws off of Desires, and he lost to Desires both duels. Game 1, he banished both Jack Jaguars, and so once I actually outed like through Banelinks and stuff, 2 Sunlight Wolves, he literally just had 1 Sunlight Wolf left. He couldn't even get a reincarnation Sunlight Wolf without Will, and I ended up getting to Path, so he couldn't even revive one anyway, even if he got to Will. And that was just all she wrote. He just couldn't come back with that. He needed Jack Jaguar Engrave to start shuffling back Sunlight Wolves, and he couldn't get to it, so really tough. Game 2, also lost to Desires. You hate to see it. I also had some really bad, I think in the first 3 rounds, I had 3 separate games where I activated Desires and Oracle turn 1. Like Oracle get my search because I don't want to like banish this potential search or whatever. I do want to do my play surf first and then Desires for more stuff. Activate Oracle, Desires, banish my other 2 copies of Oracle, draw Terraforming. I did that literally 3 times. So bad. Yeah, it needs to be Prosperity for sure at some point. But yeah, game 2, he banishes Gazelle, and that's pretty much it. He literally and I end up setting up Path again, and without Gazelle, he cannot extend from hand, and so he literally has no way to make Sunlight Wolf without Gazelle. So he can't make Sunlight Wolf in a turn, and I just end up like beating over, clearing his Banelinxes, and he can't do anything. So yeah, that was easy peasy. And then we get to round 5. We played against not Phantom Knights per se. It was actually more of like a Dark Warrior amalgamation deck. It wants to make Isolde. It wants to then go into Rusty Bardiche. It makes Dragoon. So it does a lot of the things of Phantom Knights, but he's playing so many non-Phantom Knight extenders. Just generic Warrior, jump on the board, make Dragoon hella easy, even if you can't do anything. Even if your opponent like stops everything, just put 2 monsters on the board, make Dragoon, and you're in that bitch. It didn't matter. I mean, game 1, I think I won the die roll, hard passed, because I had nothing. Literally nothing. No, maybe game 1 I did have something. No, game 1 I didn't. No, game 1 you went first. I'm sorry. Game 1 he went first, and I had Gamma. I misused Gamma, but it literally did not matter. He had like 5 full extenders in hand. He was going to play through Gamma no matter where I Gamma'd him to an extent and at least end on a Dragoon. So rough. Like it was so tough. And I didn't even draw. I drew literally 3 1 scales. He rips one out of my hand with the Aqua Dolphin, and I'm just sitting there like, wow, this was so ridiculous. This was so ridiculous that I ended up at like this 3 1 scales, 2 hand traps, and the other hand trap was DD Crow. It was one of the situations where DD Crow was awful this weekend. Horrible, horrible, horrible. So we go to game 2. I side. I draw Dimension Shifter going first, which is fine, except I couldn't even make scales in my hand. So again, I have to just almost pass, like essentially do like a stupid little play where I go like, I open just Zefra and Zefrath, so I go like scale Zefra, Zefrath, send Naga, pen summon Naga bounce the Zefra to hand, and then pass, just so I at least get a body on board, hopefully don't die. But he's playing Dragoon. He hard activates the Red Eyes Fusion, which is really bad. I chain Shifter, and he doesn't do much. He still gets Dragoon, unfortunately, because Shifter only stops Verte from resolving, not Red Eyes Fusion itself. So really, really sucks there. I totally forgot that in the moment. I never actually played against a Dragoon in person, so this was a first to me getting it back into this. So what are you gonna do? And I end up outing the Dragoon actually, but he just has combo on the next turn after that, and I still didn't draw a scale. I think I drew a counter trap after that. It's just awful. It's just so bad. I really couldn't. There was no way I was winning either of those duels, just based off our hands. If I had just opened like a playable hand, I could have gotten. And we talked about it. I was literally like, can you beat me if I don't open? If I don't get to path, if I get to path, can you win? He's like, if you open Pathless Another Disruption, you just have to kill the Verte Anaconda before I make Dragoon, and you win. I was like, okay, cool. I'll keep that in mind. Yeah, but I just didn't open playable the other time. So double brick to finish it out. Ended up 3-2. Really sucks because of that round 3 where I literally just should have 2-0'd and I ended up losing 2-1 to a very, very rookie mistake in the situation. So you hate to see it, but it is what it is. I did definitely learn a couple things about Zefras that I, that hadn't come up in testing. So just going to be just that much better on those niche interactions. Definitely going to play around with the main deck a little bit more. Crow needs to come out of the main deck. I really just only want to see Crow versus like Drytron and like Striker. That's it. So like saw it versus like 3 different decks today where it was not that great. So definitely gonna take that out and try and finagle a couple things there. But we will see. So I'm about to go on vacation, so I should be back for next week. Maybe I'm probably gonna play Zefras again, try and update them, do a little better, actually try and get a legit locals top, so I can actually make like a legit profile for that. Maybe that would be dope. But yeah, also Dark Warrior deck. This deck was really cool, tricked out with a bunch of spicy text and stuff. 50 cards. It's not Infernoble, it's not Phantom Knights. It's like a weird amalgamation of like kind of like you're seeing a bunch of different warrior, just generic good cards. If he's good, he's been 9-1 in his last 2 locals tournaments. So so shout out to John, old kneecap. So I will potentially get a profile from him next week on this. He's going to play Saturday and I think probably Wednesday again. So he may even be better than 9-1 at that point. I don't know, but he seems like he's on a roll. We'll have to keep tabs on that. So that's going to do it for me though, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comment section down below any ideas you think for like swapping out like 2 cards from the main, maybe adjusting the side. Like Raigeki was not good. Evenly did not come up. I don't know. Just ideas for it because I want to do better. I don't think this was perfect by any means. It felt fine. But honestly, the best cards all day were Zefra cards. Like getting to path was like insane. Getting the counter traps and war consistently was insane. Grinding it out just was so good. Like honestly. So yeah, let me know your thoughts down below if you have any advice you'd want to give me here. I'm still fairly new to Zefras. I definitely made hella misplays today. Zefra related and life points related, but hopefully we'll be back doing better next week. And yeah, so that is my first locals back update, guys. Thank you so much for watching as always. I will see you in the next one. Subscribe if you haven't. You want to see more stuff like this down the line, hopefully a little bit nicer, a little more clean with some actual like video footage instead of me just on Dueling Book showing you the list I played. But we'll get there when we get there. So thanks again. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.